Thank everybody for coming out. The question was asked earlier today, like why am I even spending time and putting this together? My biggest thing was growing up, I made a lot of decisions based off of what I knew, and what you don't know, right? And my thing was, if I can get people with so much knowledge in front of you guys and give you guys the opportunity to learn and ask questions, that you guys could be better off than I did. And when I'm saying you all, I'm saying all of us. I'm not just talking about the kids, I'm talking about parents too. It's times where I'm getting asked questions that I don't even know, so I have to ask people that know a little bit more than me, right? And it's okay to ask questions, it's okay to not know, right? And so right now, I just wanna have this dialogue where we all can talk. We all can be in one room and speak, right? It's Black History Month, and as you can see, everybody up here looks just like us, right? And that's one of the things that I definitely wanted to lean in on, and that we have people that look like us that's in powerful positions. So without further ado, this is the Athlete Summit, the first one, all right? I'm going to introduce our MC for the night, is Miss Nisha, right? And she'll take it from here.
Thanks, Mo. All right, how are you all doing? I mean, listen, we're gonna be here. So one more time, how are you all doing? That was better, that is better. You guys can, well, we'll get you all warmed up. As Mo said, my name is Nisha Gatson. I am a public speaker, and I am an event MC. I've been doing it for about 25 years. Do not try to do the math on my age, okay? We don't have time for that. But just to give you a little bit of background of why this is really something that I'm passionate about is, one, I am a product of this facility, and I work out here, much to my chagrin sometimes, because Mo is crazy, and he's a fantastic trainer, but I'm grateful for just the space to be able to be a part of this event. But also, I've seen the efforts of Mo and of Chris and of all the wonderful folks here of just wanting to give back to this community with their foundation, and just to understand, why I'm sort of relevant here is my background is television. I've hosted about 3 television shows, but I started in sports and entertainment reporting, right? And I understand just the journey of being an athlete from several people that I've interviewed. And most recently, I had the privilege and honor of writing the Hall of Fame speech of Terrell Owens, if you all know who he is, NFL great, legend. And I went on a journey with him that was really, really special. And I learned about the sacrifices of being an athlete, right? The sacrifices of really committing yourself to a sport and to a talent, and the impact on your family, right? And so I see the parents that have shown up today to really pour into, whether it's their children or if you're just showing up for yourself today, give yourselves a round of applause, because that is necessary too. So give it up for yourself. And we have this esteemed panel who I've just started getting to know, and I'm grateful for them being here as well and just sharing their experiences, their backgrounds, and they're here to pour into you as well. So this day, this event is all about each and every one of you. And listen, we are not stuffy folks, right? Like, we are very just open, and we want to make sure that this doesn't feel like an environment where we are talking at you, right? We're talking with you and to you. So if you have any questions, don't save them for later, right? We want you to raise your hand. Hey, you can just jump in on the conversation. If something resonates with you, go ahead and say that. We want you to feel like when you leave here today that this was for you and about you, all right? So without further ado, I'm going to have them all introduce themselves, and then we will get into the conversation today. And Tanya, we'll start with you.
Okay, wonderful. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tanya Baskin. I'm the CEO of the Baskin Group. I used to work out here at GPT, and then the commute became too much. But I stayed very connected with Mo and the work he's doing, because one of the things I learned when I was a client here is that Mo was so invested in the community and what he did with the kids, with the folks in the community. it was really impressive. So even though I no longer work out here, I work with Mo one-on-one. I help him with his GPT brand, and we collaborate together a lot. My company is a full-service marketing and communications company. We work with companies and/or organizations to help them build their brand in the marketplace. And what we're really strategic at is helping them connect with the communities and the consumers that they serve. So that's really understanding the motivations of different audiences and realizing what that, how to connect that corporate brand and that corporate reputation with the appropriate target audiences to whether it's move product or understand information or change behavior. That's what we do across all verticals: health, education, pharmaceutical. So we work with a lot of global brands as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gina Young, and this is an amazing event. I'm so excited to be here, and thank Mo so much for the invitation. I'll tell you about my company first. I am the owner and CEO of Centric Business Solutions, and we are a woman-owned, Black-owned accounting firm, full-service accounting firm. We do everything from bookkeeping and accounting to high-level CFO services for businesses. We have a tax practice where we work with individuals, we work with businesses, and in particular, we have a large book of business with high-profile clients, professional athletes, entertainers, the Hollywood types. They're all in the same boat. So we're all here for the same thing. I want to thank Mo because I met Mo through my nonprofit organization, Next One Academy. And so Next One actually works with underserved youth, Black and brown youth, to expose them to different career paths in the STEAM space, which includes the arts and athletics. And so Mo and I met. He received an award at our gala a couple of years ago for the work that he does in the community, and his foundation and my nonprofit partner together. So I am super excited for the information you all are going to hear. Looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Mo.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Chef Will Spencer, and I am a chef, and excited to be able to be here and share what I do and how it relates to you guys and your athletic journeys. I've known Mo for a few years. Actually, today is the 5th year anniversary of us working together professionally, though before then I had gotten the opportunity to cook for him and Keisha. And then obviously, I've got a sports background. I played high school football in this area, played collegiately, worked in fitness for 12 years before I started my culinary journey. Had the opportunity to win a television program, national TV show for cooking, and now I work exclusively with athletes. So my company, Spencer Fine Foods, I work as Spence Cooks, but I work with a lot of professional basketball players. Right now, I've been working with the Wizards for like 3 years. I work for 4 of those guys. I've done professional boxers, NFL players, and I really try to use the background of my sports career and my physical training experience to combine that to nourish these athletes in a way that keeps them on the field, on the court, out of the training room, and allows their serotonin, levels, mental focus to really be where it's at. One of the things that I hope to be able to share with you is some of the information on how the impact of what you put in your body directly correlates to the result that you get out of it, and it's never too early to start. So the junk food and stuff, has a time and its place. It just typically doesn't coincide with elite performance. So I'm excited to be here, very grateful. As a matter of fact, my son, who is 12 years old, trained here in the summer with Chris. So we love GPT, love what this program stands for, and very excited to be able to share my information and knowledge with you guys today. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Milton Harris, the co-founder of the Unfolding Room. I'm a licensed mental health professional. Really, I'm born and bred right here in Prince George's County. I went to Duval High School, graduated from the University of Maryland. I also played sports. I played football for the University of Maryland as well. Just as far as I'm excited to share with you all today as well as how mental, our mindset also contributes to how we perform, how we show up as an athlete. I grew up here, like I said, in Prince George's County. So, being able to understand what that means, being able to, things that you see, the things that you go through, and it's important. And for me, even how I ventured into the mental health profession. I was a youth pastor first for 10 years, and seeing people that look like us come through having the same stories that I seen in my family, that I seen growing up. So it inspired me to actually go back to school become more trained to be able to help and work through, and especially with athletes with my athletic background, training young guys, being able to just pour back into the community is important. Seeing and going through the process, you understand how your mental will show up and impact how you perform, how you show up, how you compete, right? I'm excited to be here. I thank Mo. Actually, played against Mo in high school, so that was the thing. And now he's my neighbor. Live a couple of doors down from me. So, I just appreciate the invitation to be here and share with you all today. And I look forward to having a great time.
All right, so you can tell this esteemed panel is ready for you. All right, so again, if you have questions, raise your hand, we can get into it, but we do have some questions that we'll get started with. And so, Tanya, when we talk about just marketing and branding, I think a lot of times people think that their personal brand starts much later, right? Not understanding that your existence right now, you are a brand, even in your current state, right? Without the development of much of anything yet, you currently are a brand. And so how you represent yourself matters. And so can we just jump into, how they can start right now in establishing that brand, that personal brand early, then that will sort of catapult them to the next steps in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually wrote notes to these questions because I want what I say to connect to this handout that I have for you guys, because I think you're going to get a lot of information today. And it's a lot coming at you. So I make sure you grab one of these when you get a chance. It's what I call the athlete brand checklist. Leave one here for me, right? So the whole point of this checklist is you all to take this with you, and it's about build your brand early, protect it always, and how to grow it intentionally. And it's the sort of foundation of how you do that and what you should always be thinking about as you build your brand. But to answer your question, Nisha, so first I think that you need to understand that your brand is not your logo. It is not a logo. A logo is just something, it's a mark. Your brand is actually your reputation, right? It's what people say about you when you're not in the room and what they think about you when you're not in the room. And I think if there's 3 things you're gonna hold on to right now that you need to start with building your brand, it's clarity. Like, who are you beyond the sport, right? Because the sport is only a part of it, right? So what do you stand for? What is it? Discipline? Is it leadership? Is it faith, community service, humor? What is it? Your academics? That's the first thing. Secondly, consistency. Online and offline. And I talk a lot in this here about online because I know everybody's on Instagram and you have these social media profiles, and that weighs so heavily into sort of who and what you become. Everything you communicate, your Instagram, how you treat your teammates, how you respond to losing, how you show up to practice, companies look for consistency, right? If your social media says one thing and you behave another way, then that's not consistency. And then character, because I think you guys need to understand that you're in this for the long game, right? Every athlete eventually is going to transition, right? And when we work with national brands, they care deeply about how authentic you are, your representation, and your trust factor, right? So what makes you marketable, isn't just talent, it's credibility. So you have to think about what kind of sort of character you're building for the long game, and you can think about a lot of the professional athletes that you know in your respective sports who've been around for more than just a season. Long after they retire, long after they've quit the game, they've played the long game. So make sure that your digital footprint is cleaned up. Make sure that you're thinking about your entire journey, not just highlights, and try to get involved in something I would say that's bigger than yourself, that gives you more than just another story to tell than your athletic journey. It gives you a purpose.
Gina, can you talk about what decisions they can start making now financially to set them up for success?
Absolutely. My voice carries, so I was like, I can talk. Absolutely. So it's important, not just for the athletes, the parents, for us all to understand what that looks like, because it translates to other areas, just not in the sports arena. But the things that you can do now to really set yourself up for success is start a savings account for those young people. Because at the end of the day, it's about knowing where your money is. I don't care if it's money that you get for your birthday, money that you get for Christmas. Know where your money is, and you'll hear me say that a number of times. The other thing is understanding what credit is. I know the adults know what credit is and how impactful credit can be. But young people, if you haven't heard the term before, ask your parents about credit. What is credit? Because that will get you into places where you need to be, right? And the higher your credit score, the more positioned you are to do the things that you need to do and move the way that you need to move. The other thing is just knowing that if you go into business with a family member or a friend, you want to put it in writing. Everything needs to be in writing. Even as a young athlete, you may decide that there may be an opportunity for you to generate income through advertisements. Somebody wants to use your likeness, right? We hear that term a lot now. So even if it's a family member, your cousin, your parent, once you go into business, you're leaving that family relationship to the side, right? You love your family member no less, but put everything in writing, contracts. Even if you have merchandise that a lot of young people start to actually sell merchandise. Tanya mentioned something about a logo. You may want to put a logo, your name, your face, or anything on merchandise. Make sure that if somebody else is handling that for you, you just track your money. So those things are some things that you can start off with right now. Make sure you have a savings account, know where your money is, know what's coming into your bank account, know what's going out, track your birthday funds, Christmas money that family and friends give you, and understand credit, okay?
You know, what I love about this is that it all kind of feeds into each other, from the marketing to the financial components. It's all, you starting now and really thinking about these things that are going to set you up for success later. When I think about nutrition and I think about eating right and all the things, when I was writing T.O.'s Hall of Fame speech, there was a joke that he would go to the Waffle House a lot, right? But he would eat egg whites and tomatoes. That was his meal. And it was like, well, what's the point? And go, where's your waffle? Do you want to, why are you at the Waffle House with that, But he was very lockstep on his regimen, and what he would eat. And he said even when he played, he was very disciplined. And his motto is desire, discipline, and dedication. And a lot of it came down to what he ate. And, we get into our habits and our patterns, and there's some foods that we cannot depart from. But even, we've got a lot of different, obviously, ages here today. What are some key things that we should be thinking about right now in developing the right habits surrounding food and our relationships with food and what we're eating?
So that's a great question, because, and I love the way that you put that, because it is actually a relationship. We've got to think of our bodies as like a performance vehicle. That's probably the best analogy, right? So you think of your body, and as a young athlete, your body is your livelihood. It's your future. It's what your parents are investing in. It's what you're investing in. So you've got to think of your body as a high-performance machine. And a lot of folks just think about the gas, right? But it's bigger than the gas. It's bigger than just bringing in calories. It's about how well your body recovers, how well your body synthesizes those proteins and those fats. Are you getting enough vitamins? Are you getting the micronutrients that help support the synthesis of those nutrients and convert it into something your body can use? In a nutshell, we got to think about it like this. You got to eat to live, not live to eat, right? And that is especially true when we're talking about putting our bodies in the best possible position to perform, right? You wouldn't want to start a car on a cold winter morning that hasn't been running and immediately go racing 100 miles an hour. You're likely not to get the result you want out of your car. Not only will that put extra stress on your engine and on the rest of the transmission, but you're likely not to have that car perform and move the way that you expect it to. Your body is no different. So I always start with the foundation of understand first the mental aspect of food. Why are you wanting to eat this? What mental relationship does this particular food or this particular type of thing have to you? A lot of us trauma eat. I'm no different than anybody else in that sometimes when I'm stressed, I want a piece of coconut cake. You know what I'm saying? I'm stressed out. I want coconut cake. I want what I want. But I have to understand that if I do that, my blood sugar is going to spike. And, after that, I'm going to get the itis. And then after that, I'm not going to be in a position to do my best, right? So when working with young athletes particularly, I help them understand the mental connection between what they put in their body and what they expect to get out. And then once we're aligned and they truly understand the impact, now we can come up with a strategic plan to, number one, not make it work, right? It's got to be something that's living and functional. We're going to go to Chick-fil-A sometimes. You just may have to order something different. T.O. went to the Waffle House. He had to order something different. So there's a social aspect of food, particularly in the team environment, that is important and we don't want to lose. But within that, there are certain decisions that can empower an athlete to take control of what they eat and still feel like they're not missing anything. And that's really what I try to focus on for my guys.
That was really, really good. And I feel like you segued nicely to our friend Milton here in talking about just the mental part of it all, right? I mean, I think when you journey down the path of becoming an athlete, there's a lot that comes with it, especially now in the world that we live in. And unfortunately, I think we joke a lot, especially, depending on your age, to be able to grow up in a time where we didn't have social media was a real gift. Right? Because now social media adds a whole nother layer to it, and that impacts our mental capacity, right? And so can you just talk about, even, right now, like how are we preparing ourselves just mentally to deal with the journey of becoming an elite athlete, right? The journey of being our best selves in the midst of a time where everything is kind of publicized. How do we deal with that?
Absolutely. First thing I want to say is the one thing that even with my clients, above sports, one thing that I try to stress, especially to young people, is that life is mental, right? Life is mental. It's a mental thing. When we hear about sports and we get into sports, we talk about how sports is 80% mental and 20% physical or whatever. That is actually really the truth. If you think about, just yourself and in any sport you play, I don't care what sport you play, you can be the fastest, you can be the strongest, but if I can get inside your head, then you're no good. And so it's about being able to have the mental fortitude to be able to stand strong, to be able to push through and build resilience, not withdrawal. See, a lot of times when we get up against tough times, we think that I'm protecting my mental health by withdrawing. I'm going to X this out. But at the end of the day, it's really about how much can you actually withstand, to build resilience. How are you able to move forward? And in this climate, when we're talking about, life being mental, one of the main things that I say that we can deal with this, and I try to teach young people, and I just try to teach people in general, is identity. Who are you beyond the sport? Who are you beyond the jersey? Because if you don't understand who your identity is beyond the sport, if you can't recognize that this sport is something that I do, not something that I am, then when the sport goes, or however the sport goes, that's how your temperament is going to go, up and down. So even with the parents and the young people here, it's important to understand, who am I beyond this sport? How am I being able to identify who I am? In part, some ways that we're able to do that is first and foremost being able to recognize, what is it that we believe in with our whole being? Sometimes we just get into stuff and we just do stuff just to do it. And we never ask ourselves the question, what do I truly believe? So I'll give you an example. If I believe that I'm a Division I college football player, how do I believe that with my whole being? If that's what I believe, then guess what? My belief is what's going to shape my disciplines. My belief is going to shape my disciplines. If I believe this with my whole being, then guess what? My disciplines are going to match my belief. Every day I show up, I'm going to be checking in line with the disciplines that align with who I say I believe in. And then when I'm building on those disciplines, my disciplines shape my identity. How I show up every day. Am I a kind person? Do I work hard? Do I go the extra mile? All of these things are gonna say who I am, these disciplines that I show up with every day, but it all starts with a belief, a core belief about what do I believe, where do I wanna go, who I am, all of those things. If I think to myself that I'm not good enough, guess what? My disciplines are gonna match that. My daily habits are gonna match that. What you think is what you become. And so if I had to be able to really stress anything, it's about being able to check in with yourself on a daily basis to ask yourself, who am I? What words am I speaking to myself on a daily basis? Because that's what follows you. Your brain doesn't know the difference between real or fake. And so think about it. So if I'm telling myself some negative, disparaging, negative thoughts and I'm putting them on repeat over and over again, eventually that's going to become my reality. But then in the flip, see, a lot of people don't understand the flip side of it. If I tell myself positive things, I always win. I am this, I am that, and I start speaking in affirmations towards myself every day. What that does is your brain begins to believe that, and it starts carving out new neural pathways within your mind to disrupt the old default mode that you've been believing. The culture does a great enough job of giving us negative things to think about, thinking about ourselves. And so if we just sit and that's the only pathway that we take in on a daily basis, that is what is going to show up in our lives. And then we wonder why we're stuck in these negative cycles. We have to be intentional about disrupting what we say and the things that we take in. I understand I grew up, listening to Biggie and all of the different type of stuff. So, but the things that you eat, that you take in, whether it's what you listen to on the radio, whatever's in your Beats headphones, or I guess it's iPad Max now, Air Max or whatever it's called, but whatever you're watching, all of those things are food for your brain. And whatever it is that you take in is what you're going to put back out. And so being able to recognize that and being able to guard your mind, guard your thinking with all that you have. So that's what I would say.
Amen.
Yes. Preach.
Okay, brother.
Whew, that was good, Milton. So I want to check in with you all. Do you all have any questions, or do you want us to keep going? Because again, this is about you. Go ahead, Mo.
Okay. So, Ms. Tanya, I got a question for you, right? When we talk about brands, right, and I've been to a lot of Little League games or high school games and whatnot, right? And we're talking about the branding part, right? As a parent, how can I protect my child's brand, right? Because we know how a parent can kill it. But how can I protect it? But also, how can I also promote my child's brand without it maybe impacting the team, or impacting the chemistry of the team? Like, you got any advice on that?
Well, when you say promote the kid's brand, right? And are you suggesting that in this scenario like that there may be sort of some conflict between the child, the individual versus the team? And how do you do that, right?
Yes, because sometimes sometimes as parents, they struggle with promoting their child, like posting or coming up with a video because of content. But then at times it can be looked at as you're just a distraction,
Right.
Like you're making it about just your child. So what ways do you think we can elevate our brand, but also protect?
Well, I think as a parent, that's your responsibility, right, to manage your child's sort of brand in this day and age. And I think that we have to understand the context of it now, because I'm older. When I came up, I ran track in college, we didn't have all this, right? The pathway through not even just college now, it's even high school, is a little different. And all of the things that they've been talking about here matter. So even when Gina was talking about the financial literacy, right? When you're going to college, it's not just about, we got a scholarship we signed on the dotted line. You're talking about NIL plays the role in there. So you have a parent, like you're almost a brand ambassador, right? I think you have to understand that you're a brand ambassador for your child. And you have to really look at your child and the pathway and the trajectory for that child and what makes sense in the umbrella of that team. But also you have to understand when you're making the decisions of the team that you're putting your child on, does that make sense for the pathway that you're building for your child? It's that long game starts so early now. And a decade ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it didn't start that early. I always tell people that you are the average of the 5 people around you. You are the average of the 5 people around you. You can look at the 5 people that you mostly spend most of your time with and how you associate with them, and with your children, that's gonna be the team, the coach, or whatever. That is the sum of your child's future right there. And that's what you should also be looking at and figuring out how to leverage it. And you know your child, parents know their child, right? But I don't think that, you should shy away from it, but also be able to be fluid in that process, because your child is going to evolve, what the needs of that child is going to evolve, the journey of that child is going to evolve as you start to see different skill sets and stuff come up to the surface. You have to figure out, how do I accentuate those, and what is that I want to sort of form my child? And it goes back to the building the brand in general, right? What do you want people to say about your child when your child not in the room? That's the type of content you need to be creating, right? I lost a good friend of mine a couple of weeks ago who was a professional athlete here in the DC area. And one of the things that warmed my heart when I was reading about what they said about him, because he had a long career in the NFL and he also had a long career post-NFL, was all the things that they wrote about him post his NFL career. He was a Pro Bowler, all that good stuff, right? But there were the article. If the article was 4 paragraphs, 3 were talking about what he did after the NFL, right? After the NFL, right? Because he had built his brand, and his brand stood the test of time long after the NFL, right? So you think about your child in that same context. But I will say again, you are the average of the 5 people around you. So think about the environments that you're putting your child in, and what does that, as Milton said, feed into them, right? How does that feed into the environment that you're creating for your child? It matters. It matters.
Can I speak to that? I want to speak to that too.
So when that question that he just proposed, I was thinking that in order to start out, the parent have to have a hell of a mental state. And somewhat be on the same page as the child. Because a lot of times, I'm not coaching anything, but when you utilize the gym, when you come in here, you see some kids that love to work out. My son loves this is his mental capacity. Love the gym, right? But some don't. How do you get the parent and the child on the same page?
I'm ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do something else.
Yes.
Go back to you, if you want to brand that kid, maybe you're in the wrong sport or the wrong line of business, you need to pick something else.
From the mental health side, and this is something that I love to talk about a lot. I have a 16-year-old myself, and I understand, that tough space to be in, But one of the things that I say is that it's important for the parent to make sure that they're healed first. They're healed first, because sometimes we project the things that we want or that we did not achieve or that we did not have onto this child, and we don't see what the child is trying to naturally offer up. If we say they want to go into, now that's not saying that we don't have a children. If you start something, you finish it, right? But sometimes we can have it go further because we're not healed within. We're trying to say, if you just do this, I have the game plan. If you just do that. So sometimes it starts with checking with the self as the parent, and that's something that we have to all do at a certain time. I had to do it with my own self and, my own children, as far as recognizing who they are showing that they are going to be. And if they're not being able to step up, if they're saying that they want to be in this space and they're not committed or dedicated to this space, a lot of times time will be able to show that, right? But it can become frustrating for the parent. And then that's where you get that tension between the child and you're fighting them, going back and forth to, you need to work out here, you need to work out there. It's about oftentimes making sure that we are stabilized, because as we ground within our own selves, we ground the whole situation. And then we are able to see clearly without projection.
Okay.
Okay, so to begin the conversation, because we're dealing with children,
Right.
how do you start a conversation about how do you want your brand to look with a child? I understand you saying the parents are the ambassadors and we're supposed to lead, but children will change their minds like the seasons. So how do you
So yeah, you can grow it, right? Because if you anchor it around who your child is as a person, then there really isn't much that's going to change. It's going to evolve, but it's not going to change because you know who your child is. So if your child is actually just a really funny kid, then that humor stays with them, right? If your child is just a really good person and my kid always likes to help other people, right? Because that's what your brand needs to be based on. It's not the performance, right? It's not the how many points you scored. It's like who you are as a person. So if you anchor it around who your child genuinely is, their personality, what they bring to the table, they're always funny, they're always quirky, they're really thoughtful, whatever it is, because your child's characteristics in terms of their personality. You anchor it around that, everything else will come, right? So I figure like if you look at that, who the person is, that's the cake, everything else is the icing. Right? And then to Milton's point earlier, you were talking about this story, my daughter, right? I have a daughter, grown daughter now, but it's funny, like he said, how you project onto your children. Because I ran track, so she should run. And her dad played basketball, she should play basketball. And she did, she played all those and was absolutely good, like really a good high school athlete and could have played, in college if she wanted to. She got recruited. But I remember one day she told me to come to school because she was getting her art project won some award, and it was being displayed. And I went to school and I was like, okay, well, which one is yours, right? And then I was like, that's yours? Like, that's yours?
Yeah.
Like, for real? Like, you painted that? And I was like, I missed a boat. I missed a boat. She's an architect now. I caught it. But I missed it at that point. I was like, that ain't her gift.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's not her gift. That's all I knew. But that's not her thing.
Yeah.
Right? And I had to go and really was like, oh, she really painted that. Like, I can't believe she painted that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? So you got to pay attention. Like that's a great point about projecting because we have it in our minds and she tall, and she's supposed to ball and all this other stuff.
Oh my gosh, that's so good.
No.
That is so true.
I want to touch on that because I think that was very profound. And I want to touch on it from a standpoint of, I have a daughter who'll be 10 on Monday. And people often say, oh, you have a mini me. And I'm very quick to correct them and say, no, she's a big her. Because I'm not raising a duplicate. Like, she is her. And it's so important for us to really understand who our kids are and the journey that they want to go down, right? It can be so different from ours, right? And to your point, my kids are tall kids. And so the thought is when you see them, she has to play basketball, he has to play basketball. My son will be 8 and he does play basketball. But my daughter has no interest in playing basketball. She's creative. Right? She draws, she's into anime and all these things. It would have been very easy to dismiss those things until I see the passion behind it, until I see that this is how she wants to spend her time, until I see that when she draws, it is beautiful. And so it's like, how do I cultivate this for her and really see and see her through the journey that is hers versus seeing her through the journey that I see for her? And so it is so key to have the conversation. And it's funny, public speaking is on this list of things for us to discuss, and that's sort of my wheelhouse. But it all falls under an umbrella of communications. You've got to start this dialogue as early as possible and have real honest conversations. What is it that you love? What is it that you really want to do? And to Tanya's point, like, it may change over time. It may shift a little bit. It may be modified a little bit, but the foundation of it probably will be the same. But we have to really listen to what that is, and not what we see, but what they see. Right? And why do you want to do it? Because then that goes to your question or comment earlier about, if they really want to do it, you won't even have to make him do all the things, because it's what he wants to do. When they don't want to do it, it's going to be, they're kicking and screaming to show up to practice and to do the things. And then is it your dream or is it theirs? Right. And that's a real question to ask, because if they are chasing your dream, eventually it's not going to work out. But if they are chasing theirs, then you're on a journey together that you will never have to push them into. They will want to do it because that is what they want to do. So ask the hard questions, right? And be ready and sort of humble yourself in your mental space to receive an answer that may be contrary to what you want. You know what I mean? Maybe they don't want to play volleyball and you love volleyball and that's your favorite thing, and you had hoped to have a kid that would play volleyball. That might not be their jam, right? Yeah. And that has to be okay. But the thing that they're really into, if you can pour into that and cultivate that, who knows where it'll go. And so I really implore us to really have the dialogue, ask the hard questions, and listen to the answer. Communications and public speaking is much more than speaking. It's about listening. Are you really listening to what they're saying back to you? Are you ready to receive it? Are you ready to pour into it? Are you ready to help them with the discipline that is required for it? And then also cultivate the discipline that they also have themselves. Because it's one thing to cultivate an athlete, but then when you got to take them to 17 practices a week, you know what I mean? It's like, you sure? Right. You really want to do this? Because how many games you got? And listen, my son plays AAU basketball and he's 7. And it's like, what? What do you mean you have 2 games on a Saturday? You don't want to go play PlayStation? Right? But I gotta build this dream that you say you have, right? I've got to help you to cultivate that. So I think that this is a beautiful conversation we're getting into. Any other questions before I want to go Mo?
So, and I saw this on social media, and I thought it was so true, right? It's probably going to kill me. A lot of times in our culture, we always look at pulling back, right? When I say pulling back, like when I ain't seeing the kids in the gym, hey, you get to a certain level, what you gonna do? I'm about my mom, about my dad. It's always about going back, right? Where in other cultures, it's always about paying forward, right?
Yes.
It's always about preparing for the next step. And then you get these kids sometimes in situations. So Jada, this is a question that will be for you, right? Okay. Because I'm sure this has come across your desk at times where kids, not even kids, but you have these people that are financially able, but they're struggling with, hey, do I take care of mom and dad, or do I now set up for this future, right? Because sometimes we can't do both. And if we are able to do both, then of course you do both, but sometimes you gotta pick between the two. But then you also wanna make sure that you're able, like Ms. Baskins was saying, able to, at that post-career, and be able to do those things you wanna do. So.
Good question, good point. And I was gonna tap into that because this turns into a mental health piece too. So you can see how all of these pieces are connected, right? So the number of athletes, the number of entertainers that we've worked with who go from $0 to a massive amount of wealth. They haven't been trained on what to do with the money. The parents can only teach them what the parents know, and the parents don't know. And so they get into this spiral, to your point, Mo, where they're like, I want to buy my boy, I want to buy my mom, I want to buy this, that, and the other, right? Before you know it, they're having to file for bankruptcy because the money's gone, right? Or they're spending money before they've earned it. There's a contract on the table, yeah, but the money hasn't come, so I'm just gonna put it on credit card. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. But then it turns into a mental health issue because now they're trying to cope, right? Because they have the family, the friends tugging on them. They got the internal revenue coming after them because nobody thought, oh yeah, I may need to file some tax returns. So they get in trouble from a tax perspective, but then they're unable to even have enough resources to plan for a future. They can't even think about their future. They can't invest to prepare for that time when, God forbid, they have a bad leg break or their career is over. And so now you see them back in the neighborhood. And so to your point, it is it's almost like a hamster wheel. It's that hamster wheel effect because you're trying to figure out, how do I take care of my folks? A lot of times those family and friends have pushed them to get there, right? Even though that may not have been really what they wanted to do, to your point, but they're there because they know that's the way that I can amass wealth to take care of my family and friends. But then what about taking care of myself? What about making sure I have a will, I have an estate plan, I have all the things I need in case something happens to me? And so we've seen it over and over again, and then they end up in a place where they're broke, and then they have major mental health issues. So all of these things are so connected. I don't have the answer to it. I wish I did. All we can do is help them the best way we can to kind of navigate that. And when I tell people we're more than just accountants, we're prayer partners, we're encouragers, we're counselors, because we get all of that from these young people and athletes who are gone on. They're no longer in the league. They're no longer in the NBA. They're no longer, winning Grammys, any of that stuff. But they're like, I'm in this place, I'm in trouble, and I need to figure out how to deal with it. So those are also the things that we really have to think about. And to the conversation we were just having about, us as parents projecting our desires and wishes and trying to live vicariously through our children, that can just get so out of control. So all of that to say, we just have to be real. We have to keep it real with ourselves. We have to be healed first, right? And deal with that so that we're not projecting these unhealthy habits or thoughts or aspirations onto our loved ones, our children, and our friends and family. Did you want to speak to that from a mental health place? Because it's huge. I mean, we see it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, really from a mental health perspective, what I would say is, along with what's already been said, is like just education. I think awareness is the key to everything. The more you educate yourself on anything, that's how change happens. Even in my office, when I'm seeing clients, my first client, I'll let them know, the key to healing is awareness. Awareness about yourself. Why am I behaving this way? Why do I have these certain issues? Asking yourself questions. And so even with this topic, how do we change that? How do we help that? Is understanding, like being in spaces like this now where you're hearing the information of getting this awareness and understanding of what it actually look like. Because a lot of times we think, if a person signs a contract for the NFL, they're rich. I have a 16-year-old son that said, one of his friends signed just because you signed a contract, that does not mean that you are rich. After taxes and all these things that you're paying, especially if you're unsigned free, they think that if you're in the NFL, then you're rich. And it's a lot of education that has to happen along those lines of being able to recognize that doesn't mean anything. Few people are really having generational wealth, even when you're talking about NFL. Few people have that in the league. So having that education and the mental health, I cannot tell you and stress enough how important, this is for the parents, how important it is for your young people to be in therapy, right? I know therapy is like has been a taboo type of deal, in our community. Even my own 16-year-old son, he hears it every day. And, I say, hey, you going to therapy? He's like, I thought therapy was for this type of person or that type of person. So it's about breaking down those walls and those barriers to be able to even get healthy mentally. So we can understand and see things through a clear lens. It's all about the lens in which we're seeing life through, So being able to educate yourself in all of the ways that you can, starting with mental health. and getting your children in, with the therapist if needed. But I also say, even if not needed, because we never know what we don't know, So our car may be running well, but at the end of the day, that doesn't stop us from taking it to get an oil change. That doesn't stop us from taking it to get a tune-up, because we know that if we don't, it's eventually going to break down. It's the same thing with our children. It's the same thing with our children. We think because they're young that the parental guidance is all that's needed. That's not always the case, because what I also often like to tell parents is, by the age of 12 or 13, you're no longer the number one influence in your child's life. And so being able to have someone else who can pour into your child, whether it's a mentor, a therapist, a church, a youth ministry, whatever the case may be, is just monumental. And so that's how I would answer that.
Yeah, perfect.
So, all right, I got another part to it. So, hey, everybody, this is Rasheed Walker, the starting up talent for the Green Bay Packers. So we just talked about being an NFL player and everybody think that you're rich.
Yeah.
So my question is to you, Rasheed. When you got drafted, right? I know you came in with a mindset of a plan, like, hey, when I do this or when I get picked, hey, I want to do this, right? How much has that plan changed? And how much has it changed from just seeing how things move and seeing how the business go? But then also, how has the demand been since being in college and now being in the pros and people thinking that Rasheed got all of this?
So like from the financial side, or well, yeah, everybody knows that thing. Like, people think when you go to the NFL, that automatically means you rich, you can buy whatever you want. But that's not always the case. Like in my case, I went to Penn State. I played left tackle at Penn State. I was supposed to be like a high draft pick. So I was projected to go first round. Everybody know when you go first round, you get a big old signing bonus, millions and millions of dollars. Ended up leaving college with significant injuries on my knee, and it made me drop all the way to the 7th round. So with that being said, I pretty much lost a lot of the money that I thought I was going to get. So I feel like I'm a pretty disciplined person, so I understood the situation I was in. So I understood, like, I couldn't move how I probably would have moved if I received, the bigger signing bonus if I would have got drafted higher. So I was just disciplined. Like, what I did, I went to Wisconsin. I found me the cheapest apartment I could find. I just stayed in my car that I drove in college at a little Honda Accord. I was only paying like $1,200 for rent. And I just tried to live a really frugal lifestyle because I understood, like, you know what I'm saying, you trying to spend money that you don't have, that's how you go broke and put yourself in a bad situation. And me being in the league, and I was able to actually have live examples of people who would do that, like live beyond their means. People that got drafted lower than me, they want to get the nice Mercedes and stuff like that. And then, after a while, you notice that they can't maintain that lifestyle, and then people start losing their cars. They start, notice they selling their chains that they bought. They losing their cars. They losing their houses. So I feel like I guess teaching your kids discipline at a young age is really important. Like, and I feel like it should start really in the classroom, because if you're not disciplined and staying on top of your stuff in school, you're not even going to make it that far as a student athlete. Like, until you're a professional athlete, you're a student athlete first. Like, I done already been through it. Like, when I was in high school, when I first got to high school, I really didn't take academics that serious. I just wanted to play football. I like training, like lifting weights, like being with my friends and stuff. But at the end of the day, that's one thing. The classroom comes first. Like, if you're trying to get recruited and play collegiate sports, the first thing they're going to do is ask for your GPA. And, like, being a good athlete, being good at sports, or bad grades, like having a nice car without the keys, like, it don't go nowhere. So There'll be times where I think I had a reality check when I was like 10th grade, and I was pretty much the same size as I am now when I was in high school. So, colleges will come and, look at me and say what's up to me. And I remember it was a college recruit at NC State, watched me work out, had a good interaction with him. And then we asked him for what my GPA was, and I gave him my transcript. The whole mood shift. Looked at me nasty. And never seen him again. And after that, that's when I made a decision. I'm like, man, I hated that feeling. It was a terrible feeling. And I could control that. If you was an athlete, you can control the effort you put in the classroom. You can control, you doing your homework. You can control you focusing in class. You can control you going after hours, talking to your teacher, just trying to get your grades up. Like, most of the time, teachers just want to see that you care. But at the end of the day, if you don't got your grades, then everything else just gonna burn up. There's no point. So you gotta have them grades as a student athlete. That's one thing. I wish I was a better student in high school and college, honestly. But yeah, that's some gems I leave for y'all. Student athlete first. Student athlete.
Yes, go ahead.
Since we're talking about finances, we feed student athletes. How do we do this on a budget with the price of meat and beef going up, and you gotta pack 2 meals per child to send to school because they're eating lunch, and then after they work out and they get in their car, they hungry. You're not stopping at Chick-fil-A because you ain't got no money. Okay. So, I mean, realistically, how do you budget and feed your child well without trying to, feed it foods and noodles and hot dogs?
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that one. No, it's a struggle. I mean, trust and believe. Over the last 5 years, my professional food costs have gone up about 45%, okay? I mean, I just see it because I'm in the stores every day. I shop at Restaurant Depot, I order from Cisco, and I'm in the same Costco as everybody else. So I can tell you that is a huge, major concern, particularly when we've seen the price of beef, the price of eggs, the price of milk just skyrocket, right? And it's just like, where does it stop? And that's a tough thing, but I would say this, very similar to how you would budget for your household in any other way, you have to take a legitimate, holistic approach and recognize it is an investment. It's an investment not only in your prospective student athlete's performance, but it's an investment in their mental health. It's an investment in their physical health because 95% of our gut biome, it has to do with our immune system, right? So immunity starts in the gut. And when you don't have the right nutrients and you don't have the right, things in your diet, then your health is gonna suffer. What I would say is, meal prep is how I started. Now I work for professional athletes, but I started cooking for high school kids and doing meal prep, right? And a lot of parents would tell me, Chef, we want to work with you, but I don't think we can afford your fee. And I said, well, maybe we can just do a consult and I can help set up a program for you to do in your house and show you how simple and easy it is to do meal prep and to change it up slightly so that people don't get bored. But it is a discipline, right? And as I said earlier, we have so many emotional connotations and connections to the way that we eat. From a cultural standpoint, we're Soul Food Sundays. We Big Mama's house on Sunday, right? So like it's such a cultural tie to the food. And you can still have that and enjoy that while also being able to parse out the right kind of nutrients and meals for your kids. And you're right, they're gonna eat a lot. Kids are gonna eat 2 or 3 meals in the afternoon, but when you have the right ingredients and you're actually making your own food, it's not as expensive as you think. I'll say this, fast food is expensive. There are no more $3 value meals. Fast food is $10. So when you do the math and you say, if you can get, a nice piece of meat for, maybe let's say $8, $9 a pound, you're only using a quarter pound in each serving, you're adding rice and beans, which together rice and beans create a complete amino acid chain, right? So you're getting the full protein. You're adding healthy vegetables and greens, and you're setting this up for the week using the slow cooker. There's a lot of different ways to keep your expenses really low. It does take discipline. It takes an investment, but most of all, it takes the knowledge. But we don't know what we don't know. So the first thing I tell folks is, hey, talk to a professional, get somebody who does this for a living, who has worked with people who have done it at a high clip to change the way they think about food. I had an athlete, actually my first athlete that I worked with, who went on to play professionally and everything like that. You know, the very beginning was helping him understand the impact of the food. And then, you know, for him, I did a keto type change in his diet. We're very heavy on the fats and proteins, very light on the carbs, to try to get his body to synthesize fat as fuel. Well, what happened was he was able to take his body fat percentage from something like 21% down to something like 13% before the draft. And it changed everything for him. You know, young man is now doing quite well for himself. And I would say that the biggest thing is the education, and then having a good solid plan that you can adhere to, but that's flexible enough to account for regular life.
Excellent, excellent.
I got one question in regards to mental health. I see a lot of as far as mental health, where they have problems with that the things that they were working toward didn't work out for them. Right? Then they started to shut down. And as parents, even for myself, my daughter went through depression. But for me, I looked at that, you know, well, they get past it, move on, let's go forward. I didn't get a chance to help her through that. What are some of the things that you can give advice to a parent to know, say, a child is shutting down, how can I get them to help? When that thing really doesn't work out.
You know, that's a great question. First and foremost, when you're thinking about, again, some of the things that we talked about as far as you know your child, you know, paying attention to your child, you know your child's dreams, you know your child's aspirations. But as a parent early on as well, one of the things that I think is a great issue with athletes in general is our relationship with the concept of failure. Right? Being able to, as a parent, being able to restructure the concept of failure for our young people. Because even in ourselves, we live in a culture where it's about all I do is win, right? And winning is great. And so, but the reality of it is you don't win without failure. You don't grow without first being weak. You don't do anything, it's polarities in everything that we do in life. But when it comes to the concept of failure, the reason why it then attacks us in our mental state is because we had a poor engagement and relationship with the idea of failure in the first place. Instead of looking at it as a lesson or wisdom to be learned, how can I get out of this? What can I take from this experience to help me grow into the person that I'm meant to become? We place a lot of focus on that becoming and not about the process that it takes to get there. And so sometimes when we find ourselves in a position and things don't work out the way that it has, we go straight to I'm a failure and all of the negative connotations that go along with that we've placed on ourselves over the years, over our experiences, instead of how has it grown me? And I know that's a tough thing. But as a parent, another thing is, as we're watching our children, you know, being able to get them help, you know, being able to say, hey, we're going to let you talk to someone, you know, talk to a mental health to help you process. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. A lot of times we don't look at our children. Most of us don't get in front of a therapist until we're probably in our 30s or 40s or something of that nature. And it just doesn't register, you know, especially in the athletics, space where you're going to experience a lot of failures. Right? You're going to experience a lot of failures. And how do we build our young athletes? How do we build our young people up mentally where they understand their identity was more than that sport? Right? The identity was everything that you got from the sport as well. All of the things and the traits and the character and the disciplines and the commitments, because at some point, even though LeBron tries to prove us all wrong, at some point sports is going to end. Right? None of us beat Father Time, but it's about being able to be in that space where we can help them see themselves more than just that or more than just this. You know, how do we build on those building blocks and shift the identity and idea of what we think about when we think about the idea of failure from a place of bad to a place of learning and teaching, because life is the ultimate teacher. We're gonna get it every day. For instance, I walked on to the University of Maryland, and the coach told me, I just don't think that you're good enough to play here. How do you respond in that situation mentally, right? How do you respond? Even if you don't believe in it, what have you built? What are some of the building blocks that have you put in place to respond to that? My response was, I look forward to proving you wrong, and end up becoming an all-ACC safety for the University of Maryland. But at the end of the day, I've seen other people who, like you said, they came in as 3 stars, 4 stars, and that same thing happened, and they just completely bottom out. They can't take it, because it's about how are we being prepared to see ourselves more? Well, how are we encouraged with that belief about who we are beyond just what we do? And so really, I would say continuing to be able to pour into that, being able to see our children, being able to pour into them in more than just what they do, but in all areas of who they are, being able to see them, because their genius is going to come naturally. If we watch them long enough, they'll show you the areas of genius. And if we only pour into this area and we don't pour into the other areas of genius that they show, then when this area doesn't work out, it's like I lost everything. And so being able to observe and watch so that we can understand how can we best pour into them on all levels.
So a lot of times we talk about dealing with failure, right? And I honestly believe we don't talk enough about dealing with success, right? Because we're always one decision away from going from that top of the mountain to that bottom, right? And we always preach it, hey, when we fall, this is what you do to get back up. But when you up, how should we handle that, right? Because you're seeing, like, whether it's through a branded type of point where you see social media, somebody's constantly telling you, hey, yeah, I lost, but I scored 40 points, right? And it's like, okay, like you're not dealing with success well, right? So I would love to hear you guys' point of view, because from a nutrition standpoint, right, of success, from a money standpoint, we can go from here to drop. From a branding standpoint, we can have everybody or have all these offers, and then we can lose them all from just one bad decision. So I would love to hear everyone's point of view of dealing with success. And then also, Aisha, because public speaking, at times how we come off, right? Like from a question, whether it's a controversial question or whether it's a question where we didn't have to maybe say it the way we said it. We could have said it a different way. But to me, I think a lot of times you're hearing people answer in ways because they're feeling invincible. And that's coming from the success that they so I would love to hear.
That's good. I think for me, immediately it goes back to the statement I made about you are the average of the 5 people around you. And I think that matters, because if you think about the folks who are around you, those are the folks that will hold you accountable. And I think a lot of times, whether you fail or whether you're succeeding, the people around you matter most. They matter whether you're going to be able to come up out of it or whether you're going to sustain it, right? So you really have to look at the community and the environment that you've built, because that is going to tell you everything that, are they clapping for you? Are they really holding you accountable? Are they asking you the hard questions? Are they there for you, for the right reasons, right? And are they supporting your long-term growth and what's appropriate for you? And framing up ways and ways to deal with things. Like when Milton was talking about failure and how it depends on how you look at it, there's one thing I always think about, because we all fail. You're not going to get throughout life without failing, right? And it's hard. It's hard as a person, just as an individual, to pick yourself up. I started my business, this March will be 14 years. I failed multiple times, right? And how do you pick yourself back up and continue to move forward, right? But I think the way he was talking about it was so perfect, because the mantra I've sort of come up for myself personally is, I try not to ask, why is this happening to me? I try to ask myself, what is this teaching me? You know, what am I supposed to learn from this moment, right? Because you're not this moment. Whatever is happening with me personally, professionally, or whatever, even as an athlete, I'm not that moment. And what is it showing me? Whether you should have prepared better, you should have thought about this better, things you can do better, you know, or this is how life goes sometime, right? So, but it definitely matters, the folks that you have around you, right? That circle is going to determine whether you sink or swim. And I believe that whether it's about your brand or whether it's about you, in period, the community that you surround yourself with is going to tell you everything you need to know. And then the one thing that I wanted to go back to when we were talking about the parents and the finances, you know, I don't want to date myself, but I mean, y'all got the internet. I mean, you can make it your job to just be as smart as you want to be about whatever is going on with your kid. You know, when my daughter, I realized like art was her thing, and I was like, you know, it's kind of been there all along. She's been a creative. I always joked they gave me the wrong kid at birth because I was like, why is she always drawing? And like, I have none of that as a skill set, right? But the moment I realized this is her thing, I made it my job to learn about it. The same way I learned about basketball. I didn't play basketball, but I learned about plays and everything else, what teams you should be on. You can learn about it. If you know your kid is about to be doing things that are going to generate revenue, take a financial literacy class, right? I try not to I don't need to be the smartest person in the room, but I also need to be informed enough that I can make intelligent decisions. And information is free now. Information is free. There's not too much you can't find out free. I mean, Harvard actually has courses online that are free, that they give out for free. So make it your job. You know, if this is your kid and your kid is going down this pathway, you don't have to be a PhD in it, but you can be informed enough about any particular topic right now to just make sure that you're giving them enough guidance that they're going to be successful.
I just want to touch on Mo's question in regards to success. You know, I think we really have to be intentional about our definitions of success, and also the conversations that we have surrounding success, you know, with our children as well. Because I think that the world will tell you that success is a bunch of money, right? The world will tell you that success is, you know, all these wins that you have. But I think the reality of it is when there is no moral compass, when there is no character, when there is no kindness, these things have to be the foundation of who you are, right? Because if you are moving forward and success is a byproduct of a talent you have, but you don't have the foundation of just being a good person, when you get success, the root of who you are is going to be exacerbated, right? And that can be a recipe for a disaster. Right? How many people do we see that are like, woo, they're so big, but it's like, you wouldn't really want to even hang out with that person. You wouldn't want to be around them. They're not good people. Like, these are the things that we really have to root, and we have to go back to, who are you when you're by yourself? You know, who are you when nobody's watching, right? Those things really, really matter. And so I think that we have to be rooted in those things. And then when failure happens, or when you don't reach that goal that you aspire to, and when you think that you have not succeeded, you really have succeeded, because the foundation of who you are is sound, right? The person that you are, I always go sort of biblical with it and talk about the fruits of the Spirit, right? Do you have those fruits of the Spirit? Like, are you really, really a good, genuine, kind-hearted person? Those things will take you further than a lot of these things that we put a lot of emphasis on, right? And even from a public speaking perspective, like, what are you saying about yourself, and how does it match up with your actions? That is another component that we really have to teach folks, is that it's one thing to go and be boastful and to say you have all these accomplishments, but what is your walk? Are you giving back? You know, when you have reached a level of success, are you thinking about your community? Are you reaching down to lift somebody up that would like to get to a certain point as well? These things also matter. And so this word, you know, we throw around loosely, success. I don't use that word so loosely, because I think that, again, the world's definition and ours should be different. And I also believe that, again, we should be in this world, but not of it, right? And so when we understand that we're here, but we're here to serve a greater purpose than things and, than just touting our accomplishments when our walk is something different. And so these are the things that are intangible that we can be teaching our children, that we can be teaching each other, that will supersede all of the sort of successes that we think we have if they're not rooted in the foundation of just pure goodness.
I'll just say mic drop moment twice, times two, because everything you all said, I totally agree with. And it ties back to finances. It ties back to money. Something you said, Tanya, having the right people in your circle. You can have people in your circle, but having some people in your circle that will hold you accountable, no matter whether you're successful, as the world says, defines success, or whether you're not. People who are going to lift you up. People are going to be around you all the time, but making sure you know who those people are in your circle that will hold you accountable and tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. That is so underrated. Like somebody who's going to tell you the truth, even when it hurts, right? But you know that person is telling you that because they have real love for you. Being a good person, I talk a lot about, social media and people getting caught up because they see somebody posing in front of a Bentley and the Bentley's not theirs, or posing in a house, a mansion, and it's not theirs. Even as adults, not just children, but even as adults, we can get so caught up and start questioning, have we reached that plateau of success in business or in our careers, or whether it's athletics or whatever it is? That all ties back to money. It all ties back to money. We want to look rich, but we're living on a Kool-Aid budget, right? All those things we have to be so mindful of, and especially for our young people. They need to see their role models, their coaches, their parents, their youth pastors living in the right way. It's not about, what you say, it's about how you walk. And so all of that to say, it all ties back to money. So often we see athletes, we see people in the public that look rich, but they are so broke, you would not even imagine. They may not even have rent for the next month, but they want to have a certain look. So we want to be mindful of that. It's all about saving the money. I said it earlier, I'll say it again, and I say it over and over again. Track your money. I don't care if it's $100 a week that you're receiving, or whatever the number is. Track your money. Know where your money is going. And especially when you get into those circles, you become an athlete. You have the money. Make sure you know where your money is going. You may hire me to be your accountant or one of my team members, but you need to know where your money is going. Just don't depend on me to make sure, because I may steal your money. If I'm not a person of integrity, I have access to everything. We've heard the stories, right? Somebody has a bunch of money. You find out they have to file for bankruptcy because their accountants, right, have stolen from them, or a family member. So just be mindful. It's all common sense, no matter who we are.
And I'll say this, speaking of success, a lot of times I've run into situations working with clients who, they count all the calories they bring in, but they don't count the drinking, right? The celebratory drinking, the going out to the club with the boys, they don't understand the impact that alcohol has on their diet, right? So, that's a really tough thing, and obviously we've got young folks here who are not in that space yet for the most part, but understand that, that nourishment is more than just the calories in and calories out. It's how you celebrate, I'm thankful to say that actually today is 5 years. I haven't had a beer drink in 5 years today, myself personally. And I can tell you that from my career took off when I was able to cut that out of my life and be able to put other things in its place, right? So I would just say that to young people, understand that there's a time to celebrate, there's a way to celebrate, and I'm not one of them folks that say never have a beverage, but understand the impact that it has on your holistic nutritional profile. And understand that when we start to associate certain substances with celebration or with defeat, then we're putting more mental power into something than it should ever have over us. We have to be able to stay above the fray at all times, and that's with our nourishment from a physical standpoint and also from a mental standpoint.
Yeah, and I just like to mirror everything that everyone already said. I mean, it was pretty good. And on point with everyone already said, one thing that I would say is, again, is, you know, this one really lies with, I believe, the parents and being able to set the foundation of what success looks like. I know we're in a time now where youth sports have really become a business, right? It's no longer where, you know, you're getting all of these, you're sending your kid to get these disciplines and these traits and all of these things. Now it's bidding wars for 8-year-olds now. So, you know, in that, even in the midst of the culture, I think I heard someone say, be in the world, but not of the world. You know, even though we're in the midst of this culture now, how it's pressing even more to be able to understand that success means becoming a kind person. Success means becoming helpful for other people. Success doesn't mean that now, a leader doesn't mean that everybody listens to what I have to say. A leader doesn't mean that everyone does what I do. A leader means that I'm walking beside you and we're doing this together and I'm in it with you. So being able to develop those type of traits within your young people, I think is so important, instead of just relying on outside, you know, to do those things. And I think as far as the circle around you, right? Those people who you're around, they're going to determine how you are. If you have people around you and you go out, some of you are maybe too young, but if you go out to dinner and you see that they treat the waiter or the waitress bad, they treat them like a servant, that's telling you who's in your circle. And you're going to end up becoming that way. We say, oh, I'm my own person. You are influenced by the people that you run with. And so being able to be in that space, your people are going to teach you how to handle success sometimes, you know? Eagles fly with eagles. They don't fly with pigeons or chickens or any of those other things. You fly and you become and you go with the people that you are. So you can't say you have someone in your group that is bad, but you're good. You got to reevaluate that. So really being able to take that on a personal level and being able to say, who do I want to be? Because who you are, when you have nothing, you know, that again, when you have everything, it's really going to come out and it's just going to be exposed even more. So who do you want that to be? What's in the inside of you when no one's cheering your name, right? Who are you when no one is clapping for you? That is what you want to be able to focus on. So when that does come out and you do are reaching the point of whatever you deem success to be, it'll be something that you will be able to be proud of. And I think when someone said, whenever you pass and they're reading about you, right, it's something to be able to be proud of hearing.
Go ahead.
Hey, I'm Mike Hawkins. I work with a lot of athletes.
Right? So I think that there's a vetting process that we can all do. You have social media now. Like, I think that as much as we talk about social media being a disadvantage, and the internet and all this other good stuff is actually an advantage, because there's a wealth of information on anything and anybody that you want to know, you can find out. Right? So you can do your own vetting process. But to me, it always matters that if I have the 5 people around me, like I can think of who my 5 people are. And I say, hey, I need somebody to recommend a such and such to me. They tell me that somebody's good, I can go to the internet if I want, maybe just a low and get a little. But if they tell me that person's good, say no more. When I send people, when people ask me for a recommendation, and I send somebody to them, then there's no vetting that needs to be done. Right? Because they understand how I walk and what my reputation is and how I manage myself, right? So if I say, you need to go see Mo, just give me his phone number, right? So again, going back to you are the sum of those 5 people around you, that environment that you're in, that environment has tentacles. If the 5 people around me are solid, then the other 5 people that are around them are solid, and then the next 5 people are going to be solid, and so forth. So I think to me, we can make it more complicated than it really needs to be, but it isn't that complicated at all.
I do agree. And just to piggyback off of that, I think one of the things that we can really teach our kids is the spirit of discernment, right? So to identify, obviously, that those relationships, there's going to come to a point, because a lot of times, we know, and it's like, I don't think that person is good for you. But I need to instill in you knowing that person is not the right person to be around you, right? So that when I'm not around, you have that spirit of discernment to know who should be around you and who should not be around you, right? And also, unfortunately, I found this out on my journey with T.O. and writing his Hall of Fame speech. Part of his sort of healing, when we talk about mental health, is he was surrounded with a lot of people that just were not good for him in his journey. If you know anything about him, it's a really heart-wrenching story, because there were people that he thought he trusted, and that he was like, they're got to be great for me. And there's stories of bankruptcy. There's stories of just mismanagement of funds, right? There's stories of people in his circle that he thought were his friends that were not his friends. And I think at the crux of his story is a guy who was taken advantage of time and time and time again. So even when it came down to even writing his speech, he came to me to write his speech because he said, I trust you, right? Your reputation is solid. I know you're not a speech writer, you're in television, but I trust you to get my words out there correctly when I have all these agencies that are coming to me that want to do it, but I don't trust them. Right? But his distrust of people came from heartache and heartbreak from people not doing right by him that he thought were good for him. And so I think it's learning from these stories of folks who just, everybody can't be in your circle. The 5 people that you select, really, really select them. When you talk about vetting, who are they? What are they putting out there? What does their social media look like? How are they when you are around them? Do they have their own life? That's another part, right? Is that some people are like, their life is created by your life. No, what is your existence without me, right? It's iron sharpens iron, right? We got to be able to, I can't just be sharpening you. Like, how do we sharpen each other? Those are the types of relationships that we need to create, and that has to be taught early. And if it means you got to walk alone until you can get sound relationships, be willing to walk alone. You can know a lot of people and not have a lot of people in your circle. That's another part of it as well. Everybody is not privileged enough to be called a friend, right? We're not throwing that title around. That's an earned title, right? To be around. So again, but one of the things that we can also learn is that good people beget good people. And so that's why you can have an environment like today and we can just sit around and have this conversation and we can just talk for 7 seconds and go, oh, these are good people, right? But we were brought together by a good person. So I think that's the other part that Tanya spoke about so eloquently is that really once you start getting good people around you, talk to them about who else you can be around you, right? And who else you can learn and know through them. It's about just degrees of separation a lot of times. And it's, I don't know this person, but Gina, she probably knows him. I've never met this person, but you know what? Will probably knows him. That's another thing that I think culturally we can do better is that our networks create our network a lot of times, right? But we have to be willing to, hey, can you put me in contact with this person? I just need to be around a good group of people. Who do you know? right? And so I think just having these conversations and in protected spaces to where we can honor and support each other, that really goes a long way.
Yeah, I totally agree with what both of you all have said. And a mentor of mine said once, you know, the best businesses are those businesses who partner well together. So none of us can do it all. If you find a business owner, if you find an accounting firm that claims that they can do everything, sports management, they can do the investment stuff, they may have some partners in there, which is what we do, but having a network is what we do. If Mo is the person that you trust, Mo is going to have a network for the sports agent, for the accounting firm, for the whatever you need, the PR, the social media, all the things, right? So it's, again, you know, most legit businesses or business owners already have a network. Mo has a network because he brought us all here together. So to your point, both of you ladies' point, to your question, it's about being able to tap into that network, or especially for a young athlete, having a Mo Gibson in his or her life is priceless. Also, having someone in your family who may be in business or have some business acumen who can say, yeah, let me talk to this person. I'll always tell athletes, whomever, clients, period, interview different accounting firms. Don't just come to us unless you just feel that strongly because your aunt or your colleague or someone referred us. I'm okay with people checking around because I know the level of integrity that we operate in at my firm. So I'm good with that. But I think people, just like a doctor, get different opinions. Just don't go with the first opinion. Get multiple opinions. So business is no different. So I think we've kind of covered that for you. Did you all have something you want to tap into?
I wanted to jump into it real quick on that circle of trust because I can just speak of it from two different perspectives in dealing with athletes. I've been working with the Wizards now for this is my third season working with the players full time, right? But prior to that, being from here and being around, I remember when John Wall was here going to the clubs Tuesday night, IBAR, right? I was there. I remember how these young folks that were young to the team used to move as compared to how they move now. And I can say that directly about, you know, the organization and kind of like the culture that they've got set and how that trust mechanism works. So I'm just one component in a ecosystem of trust that the Wizards have done a real good job of kind of insulating these guys, right? I work with the rookies, I work with the first couple year dudes, and I can tell you that they recommend that they have a list of different vendors for different things. I'm talking about masseuse, because these guys got to get deep tissue massage outside of when they're at the facility. They'll have somebody come by their house, and they have this list of people who've already been vetted, that are highly trusted, that have proven over a duration of time to have a good body of work, and that we all need something like that for every aspect of our life, right? If I've got an athlete that has a need, I'm gonna call him and say, man, this dude needs to get some strength. You the best at what needs to be done. I'm gonna try to send somebody to you. The thing is that it doesn't matter what environment that you work in, that trust level has to be high. And I can tell you this as well, you know, all of these guys, you can't get to them through their telephones normally. They have a list of the folks that are in their circle. The rest of the time, the phone ain't gonna ring. If you're not in that circle, you can't get to these folks on the phone. And they cut the social media off and they block it at certain times because they can't let that stuff affect their performance. They don't know what's going on outside. If you're not in that circle of folks that can get through on the phone, they don't know what's going on. And that's to protect their mental, to protect their physical, and also to protect everything else. And I'm gonna leave with this, I'm gonna stop on this point because, you know, one of my badges of honor is I had the only rookie last year to play all 82. He didn't miss a game. He didn't miss a game because he didn't eat fast food. He didn't miss a game because he didn't on the road. You know what I'm saying? He's not putting in whatever he wants in his body. He's eating the right stuff. So he was able to play all the games, didn't miss any games from an injury, didn't have any stomach bugs, didn't have anything that affected that. And that's because, again, the trust level was high. He trusted that, hey, if I eat this food, I'm gonna get the results that I'm looking for. And in return, you know, now there are more players that are still getting that type of food. So I would say that they have to earn to be vetted, and then but once they're vetted, just like anything else, you want to stay within that network and work within that network of high trust.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is, here's for the teenagers. So as my time as a youth pastor, I used to see all of the fights and the you know, we're friends this week, not friends that week. And one of the common things that I realized that a lot of teenagers do is they don't pay attention to the signs, right? When you're talking about how do I vet who should be in my circle, here's one foolproof way, because it's going to happen without them, the people who shouldn't be in your circle, even realizing they're exposing themselves. Here's the thing. If you have a group of friends and one of your friends isn't there in person, how the other people talk about that person who's not there will give you everything that you need to know. Because if they can talk bad about Ron or John or Shonda or whoever, if they can talk bad about them and they're supposed to be in the circle of friends, when you're not in the circle, best believe they're gonna say something, that same thing about you. So that is one of the main things that you can pay attention to. Just pay attention to the signs. It really doesn't, but we get so caught up in, oh, this is my boy, this is my girl, or whatever the case may be. And if you're that person, make sure that reevaluate yourself, because you're a person that may be need to be evaluated. At the end of the day, if someone in your circle is talking about somebody else in your circle and how terrible they are, how bad they are, how what they don't do, or how they, whatever it is, if they can talk about them, they can talk about you that same way. Same thing what I say about to my ladies, if a male can talk disparagingly about another female, oh, well, she ain't my girl. Well, guess what? When you're no longer his girl, you can say the same thing about, it's about what's in them that's towards you. So pay attention to that.
All right. Go ahead, sir.
I had a question related to NIL. So if a student has an NIL deal in high school, how does that student maintain the joy of the sport versus getting consumed with the business?
Oh, that is great. Well, I think it would be, what are the parameters of the deal that would take away the joy? I mean, what deal did you sign? It would be my first question, right? Because the two should not be in conflict with each other, right? It should, any agreement you're entering in with that is obviously involving your child should be only to amplify whatever about that child. It should not be any covenant where it's so restrictive that it's putting any type of pressure on it. It should just be able to amplify the brand of the child, of your child. Nothing that restrictive. You should not be entering into an agreement that would even be in that lane of thought at all. There's no agreement I can imagine that you would want to even entertain. If my kid is really good, even if they're in high school and it's a shoe deal, okay, all right. Well, what are the parameters? What does she has to do? What part of the sponsorship? What are the clauses here that we're agreeing to? But it should only be able to enhance and build the brand. And I could see the exchange. I tell people all the time, I think that sometimes we get so excited to sign an agreement or be a part of something that we don't feel that, anything I enter into, like whether it's a client or a corporation, it's a mutual exchange. That's right. I got value, you got value. And the only thing that we're sitting out here doing is negotiating how we're going to exchange the value. So they're talking to your kid for a reason, because they're valuable, right? There's value that your child is bringing to the table around whatever product that is that they're endorsing. Make sure it's mutual. It has to be mutual. If it's imbalanced, it's not a good agreement. We both walk away happy, that's a good agreement. Anybody else want to say?
No, that was perfect.
Yeah. Any other questions? And I love that you guys are chiming in and participating. This is what this is for. Remember that. So any other questions I want to make sure before we go? Go ahead.
I was going to ask about the NIL situation. So, great comments. One thing that we're starting to see, like in the industry, is that NIL is really not defined, but we're going to define it now in different avenues. So back in the day when they had the congressional thing, we had players on the lawsuit, and they had a vision for what they wanted. I think what happened is that the industries that got involved, like the companies, the schools, the collectives, they wanted to maintain control of how they would make those exchanges of value. So what we see now is a lot of unstructured contracts. A lot of the NFLPA or NBAPA contracts are structured for a reason, because they went through that ecosystem of having the failures and knowing how to correct these agreements. So what are some of your thoughts on what you feel NIL should be for young students, right, student athletes, as it scales up to kind of professional athletes, going forward. So what do you think of some of the
Well, I think the NCAA dropped the ball. I think they just punted. They didn't want to deal with it, the pain of it, so they just punted the ball and then came up with this NIL stuff. And I do think it is the Wild Wild West. So I think you as a parent have a responsibility to, either get an agent, right, or get legal representation. Right, because I think there isn't any real clear guidelines, and I think folks are making it up as they go along. And you have two things to navigate. You're talking about the NIL stuff, right, where your kid is out here cutting deals with Powerade or whomever or a local car dealership. But you also have to figure out, you have to negotiate with your university too, right, because these kids are now getting money, right? My niece plays basketball for a university. She gets a check, right? So you have to understand that there's a lot to be, a lot to be navigated in this space. I would not go it alone. I would, again, tap into your network and say, who do I want representing my child, sitting at the table with my child, but also making clear that the conversation that you have had with whoever it is that's sitting beside you, one, you've done your vetting, we know that part, but two, they understand what the pathway is that you want created for your child. This is what I see Tanya in 5 years. This is what we hope Tanya's going to get in 5 years. And it's not always necessarily a revenue number. Right? It's not necessarily about revenue, 5 million, 2 million, or whatever. It's about going back to that checklist that I gave you and saying when it's all said and done and she transitions, I really want her to be known as this because she's really good at that. Right? So Tanya's a phenomenal basketball player, but she also has an incredible skill set in the arts. She also has an incredible skill set in whatever it is. So now I'm going to be thinking about the brands that I align her with that are going to be obviously building that secondary brand, in my opinion, that secondary brand. So when she leaves basketball, she walks right into the person or the personality or the influencer in this space, right? So I think that helps when you have an agent because agents think in that sort of mindset and you have legal representation. But everything I think you need to have a plan and a strategy. What's the end game? She's going to be here at this university for 4 years. Okay, I hope she get MVP and All-American or whatever else. But what do we want to do after that? Is it to go to the WNBA? Then everything we do should be intentional with that in mind. If it's not, that she wants to then go to medical school. So what are we talking about here? Should we start thinking about her sponsorships, her deals in the health and wellness space, right? Because she's going back to get her master's, right? So you have to think about it, come up with a plan, and figure out what's your brand, and how's that going to align with the things that you align yourself with.
And I think ultimately, an example of where you would love to see sort of these NIL opportunities go to is, an example I can give is years ago, I used to work with a guy named Ronnie Brewer Jr. Ronnie Brewer now coaches at Arkansas, but I created a deal for him when he played for the Houston Rockets where we partnered with Houston Harmeen Memorial Hospital. And the reason why I did this partnership with an organization called Miracle Babies is because Ronnie, who is 6'7" right now, was a premature baby. He was like a pound. And nobody believes it because he is massive right now. But I thought about the fact that this premature baby grew up to be 6'7". And when we did the partnership with this hospital, he would go there and sit with parents of premature babies. And I would watch dads weep at the possibilities for their babies and what they could become, right? And it was a beautiful partnership that he had for the duration of time that he played for the Houston Rockets. But that was beautiful alignment of a brand partnership, right? Because it showcased something that was deeper. And even he said to me, he goes, how'd you even think about this? And I said, well, it makes perfect sense when you think about it. Like, we don't know what our kids will grow to be, and we don't know how tall they will be. And obviously, Ronnie Brewer Sr. was no small fella. And so it was sort of in the cards, you would think. But nonetheless, that partnership, and even he still talks about it to this day, what it meant for him personally. And so I think, to Tanya's point, when we think a little bit deeper, right? And some of this is not just throwing together, chicken deals, if you will. You know what I mean? Just grabbing something to just grab it. But what is the alignment and the partnership and the total brand that can catapult you further so that you'll be talking about this for years, and so will the partnership and the brand. So just thinking deeper. So that's the goal, is from the collegiate level that if you are blessed enough to go on, that you will have partnerships that are yielded in that way and that are very organic and authentic, and we're not just doing things to just get checks, right? Like they need to really matter.
Be intentional.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was just going to add to what Tanya said in terms of just having your agent, having, the parent making sure, because the parent has to be, or the guardian, whoever that person is that's really, representing that child, the legal representation, make sure you have the accounting, tax team, because taxes are going to come involved, right? Have an investment advisor. So there was a time when it was like the big earners, the corporate types, people at high levels and, different, Fortune 500 companies that would have their team, right? But now our young people need their team who are going to bat for them. So making sure those professionals are in the loop as well. Because it's gonna come a time when they need to make some investments, right? To put that money, tuck it away, right? They need to make sure the tax piece is done, the legal piece is done, so the contracts are totally aligned. There's no funny stuff. So it's now making sure that our folks have their team. Anybody else?
All right, any other questions? Just want to make sure. I want to ask some of the go ahead, and then I have a question for you guys.
Nutritional supplements.
Okay. We got your guy. We got your guy here.
Do they need them like you got your, I mean, of course, everybody can be taking multivitamins, right? But then you have these commercials like, oh, you need to drink this caffeine, you need to take this caramel, you need to drink this powder. Is it really needed, or can we just give them regular food?
It depends. It depends. And what I would say is that for younger athletes, probably not, right? But, there are some deficiencies that we have in our diet now. B complex is one of them. If you don't drink milk, then the iron is not, vitamin C. If you don't have vitamin C in your diet, then the iron that you take in from like the meats or whatever may not synthesize right, because you need riders. A lot of times you can think of the vitamins as, kind of like the lights on the highway that show the direction that these nutrients need to go and help get to their destination. One thing I would tell you is that, and working with professionals, they get something called like a DEX scan. And so I get the nutritionist for the team, communicates with me about each of the players and where they are on their scan, and based off that digital scan, whether I need to increase certain aspects, macronutrients like the proteins or the fat, or micronutrients like I've had players that said, hey, you need to add some more niacin to their diet, see if you can add something that has niacin in it to their diet because they're a little low in that this week. That's at a very high clip for professional athletes who you expect to be able to perform. I mean, LeBron James, I can say this, this cat's had the same chef for a bunch of years. He pays her a lot of money, and he spends over $1 million a year on his body. If you're a regular athlete, then you may not need that. That being said, I've worked with, I cut my teeth working with high school athletes. I still work with one of the best basketball players in the state of Maryland, who's going on to play at Maryland very soon, right? And I can tell you that when it comes to gaining weight, there could be some supplementation that's needed, particularly when we're talking about trying to overcompensate for our body's natural hormonal size regulation. You may need to up the proteins, you may need to take a supplement, and you may need something, but those decisions are tough. And particularly when they're not, a lot of these supplements are not regulated by the FDA, meaning that the things that are in them have not been vetted for the long-term effects of what this may do to my body. As a parent first, and as a former athlete, now obviously a professional chef, I would tell you that less is more, generally speaking. You may not need anything more than that multivitamin that you mentioned, but if you notice that, hey, my kid's not recovering the way that they're more tired than they should be. My sister, I'll give a small personal story. I've got a sister who at one point in time was the fastest girl in the state of Texas in 110 hurdles. She was a monster. The problem was that they didn't know that she had sickle cell trait. So she would run, but after the race, she would take 10, 15 minutes to recover. They didn't understand, why is she so tired? She almost passed away after a race, like literally had an episode. They got her tested, found out what the medical situation was, she couldn't run again, right? Now she lives in Germany. She's like a linguist for an NGO in Germany. Her life went a totally different direction. She ain't been back to the States in like 10 years. That being said, it took a professional to make that assertion and to be able to discern whether this was something that, hey, you can just kind of push through or not. I would tell you to definitely talk to a professional. If you feel as though your child may benefit from something, talk to the trainer, maybe meet with a nutritionist. I don't think it's a bad idea. We're talking about investments in our bodies, and we're talking about kind of taking this to the next level. It's just one step in that process. But again, what you put into your body in all facets, whether it's nutritionally, auditorily, or from an energy standpoint, meaning the people around you and the energy that they give off, all of that stuff matters.
All right, any other questions? Because we're going to be wrapping up soon. I want to make sure that we got all your questions. And I did have a question for the young people that are here today. What are your sports of interest? If you can just shout them out. Hockey. Oh, yes, hockey. Okay. Hockey, what else? Track and volleyball. Very cool. What else? Football? Football and basketball. Anything we didn't cover? Okay. All right. We wanted to know that just because, obviously, in knowing what you all are interested in, we want to keep you covered outside of this environment and keep you on our thoughts and prayers, and know that we are rooting for you in all of your endeavors. Do you all have any questions? I know, don't be shy. This is a very safe and trusted environment. I want to make sure that I hold space for the young people that are here, that if you do have any questions, that you can definitely ask them. And if you don't feel comfortable in this setting, we'll stick around post the conversation. Go ahead, Mo.
Can you all share your social media accounts?
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing now. So you guys can share that.
Yep. I'll let you guys get started.
My Instagram is TBG, like the logo on there, _strategies. That's my Instagram. I'm sorry, TBG _strategies, like the logo, TBG, T as in Tom, B as in boy, G as in girl.
So we are very light on our social media because of the sensitivity of what we do, and we do put information out there. But anybody who's interested in following up with me, I have a QR code business card, so just come up to me afterwards, and I'm happy to share it with you.
Okay, I'm Spence Cooks on everything. Spence Cooks at Instagram, SpenceCooks.com, Spence Cooks at TikTok. And I actually have some cards here, so if anybody wanted to get a little more information or schedule a free consult, I can definitely do that for you too.
Yeah, and the same with me. I have a QR code, but our website is theunfoldingroom.com. If you're looking for any type of mental health services, we can provide that. But theunfoldingroom.com, and I do have a QR code if you want to scan it.
Okay, and mine is, listen, prepare yourselves for the spelling of this name. So my name is Nisha, but my mother, who's actually visiting in town, she's from Wisconsin. If you guys want to talk to her, I'll give you her number, because she spelled this. So it's Nisha, but it's spelled K-N-Y, I know, J-A. What? I know. It's very crazy. And last name is Gatson, G-A-D-S-O-N. So Nisha, K-N-Y-J-A, last name Gatson, G-A-D-S-O-N. So, I had to be destined for greatness with that name. I'll share a little fun story with you guys. In my television days, I shot a pilot show for Oprah. And the producers who selected me for the show, they go, we picked you because you made fun of your name. I made fun of my own name because I'm just still yet traumatized by it. And in the video, I said, I'm Nisha, but it's spelled K-N-Y-J-A, that looks like ninja, right? And so oftentimes people still call me Ninja, which, Milton, I am currently in therapy over just that point alone, all right? Because why would she do this to me? And guess what? It gets better. Her name is Shirley. What? Okay. And then Shirley and my aunt, who was in cahoots with her, her name is Barbara. Shirley and Barbara came up with Nisha, and it's do you all like me? Did you care that I had to exist in this world? I'm sorry, I was about to go on a tangent about my name, but so that's me on social media. Nisha Gatson, looks like ninja. I digress. So I want us to be able to close out, but I also want to make sure, again, that I hold space for you and that if you have any questions, you can ask them. If not, you can keep in contact with us, right? This is the start of a beautiful relationship with all of us, and just know that you have us supporting you all on your journey. You're not by yourself. And to your parents who took the time to bring you all out today, because you could have been doing anything, right? But you decided to spend this time with us because you are investing. It's just another way that you're yet investing in your kids. And to the adults who came out because they wanted to support and get this information, we appreciate you all so much. We know that nothing happens by happenstance, right? Each and every one of you is here for a purpose. And I will say this personally, if any of you are struggling with public speaking, they say that public speaking is America's #1 fear. I believe that it's not the fear of public speaking. I think it's the fear of judgment. I think that people fear that if they speak publicly that somebody's going to be judging them or that they won't be received properly. So if you need any help with that, contact me and I'll help you all at no charge, okay? I want to make sure that you cultivate that gift, because if you can learn how to public speak and you don't have the fear surrounding it, and let me say this, you will always have fears around public speaking. A lot of us are speaking and you do it scared, right? You do it with the nerves, you do it with all the things. I've been speaking forever and still get nervous from time to time. Don't ever let that stop you, right? Push forward anyway, because your voice matters and you have something to say. And so I want to wrap it up today because we've had a beautiful conversation that I think covered a lot of things. But, what would you all leave individually with our audience today, as it relates to all of the components that we discussed, and just powering forward to be the best athletes that they can be, but not just, on the court or on the field, but personally in their lives as well, to be the best people that they can be?
Well, I left you guys with this thing here, and I was just sitting there thinking about it, this checklist, and it says the athlete brand checklist. And I think you can cross out athlete, right? You can put in creative, you can put in whatever it is that you want to do, whether you want to be an athlete. But I think it's just a nice structure and a nice grounding, right, for you to consider in how you're navigating your growth, period, whether you're an athlete or not, right? It's just some things that you want to consider. I think whether you're an athlete or not, you always want to know the 5 people around you, right? And that stands true regardless of what space you're occupying in your life. So, the 5 people around you are going to determine so much. That's whether you're an athlete or not. So I think this holds true. You can cross out the athlete part of it and just use it as a way to sort of help you navigate how you think about different situations that life may bring to you.
That's good. That's good. I think I have one word to kind of describe all that we've talked about in a nutshell for me, is the word discipline. And discipline applies to our young people and their education and what happens in school, and just making sure that you do your absolute best at all times. Discipline for the adults, whether it's tracking your money, I believe in that, whether it's, nutrition, mental health, our brand, because one of the things I mentioned to Tanya is we're talking about brand awareness, if you will, for athletes. But even when you're looking at going to colleges, colleges look at your brand. They want to see who they're accepting. If it's some crazy stuff out there, maybe a little shaky. Employers look at your brand. They go to social media. They have individuals who do nothing but look at social media. So just discipline in all areas. That's all I have.
I think that you cannot outtrain a bad diet. And that nourishment is more than just what you put in your mouth. It's nourishment is what you bring in your mind, body, and soul, right? And I think, one thing just on a separate topic, but related, but all 5 of us up here are entrepreneurs. All 5 of us are folks who have a sports background that we're able to find our own lane and our own voice and stay connected without necessarily playing the sport forever and ever, right? So you can work for yourself, you can build your own brand, and you can feed your mind, body, and spirit the right things to get the results that you deserve.
And what I would just remind you all of is that life is mental. Your mental health is important, don't ignore it. Look at the moments in your life as chapters and not the whole story, because sometimes we can get stuck on the chapter and not be able to move forward. Fall in love with the process, and whatever it is that you do, fall in love with the process over the outcome. And then that's how you actually will be fulfilled. Regardless of what the outcome is, fall in love with the process. Build your mental space to be strong. Because at the end of the day, we don't only need just strong athletes, but we also need strong mental leaders as well. All right? So just remember that life is mental.
And I'll just leave you with a couple of public speaking tips that I hope will bless you. The first one is, if you can get in front of the mirror in the bathroom, and it's gonna be weird, all right? So let's embrace the weird. And just, get in the habit of introducing yourself. We call it an elevator pitch, just a 30-second elevator pitch. Who are you, right? Who would you want the world to know that you are? Get in the habit of saying that. In the mirror as often as possible, right? That gets you comfortable. The second thing that I would advise you to do is affirm yourself. Get in that mirror and tell yourself how amazing and how great you are, right? That's also gonna be weird, but do it. Because long before the world can tell you who you are, I need you to know who you are, right? If not, you will be defined by the world, and we won't allow that, right? So get in that mirror, tell yourself how great you are. And if there's something you got to work on, be critical of yourself as well. That's okay. We all have our thing, right? And then I think the third thing that you can do is, it might be also weird with your parents, but get a trusted person, make them just interview you, right? Ask you some questions. And listen to and whoever's doing the interview, listen to the answers and the responses. Get comfortable with that. You never know where life may take you. You may have to sit down and do some interviews, right? And so you want to be prepared for that dialogue and not, be kind of like a deer in headlights. So those are 3 public speaking tips that I want to leave with you all, so that you can embrace that journey and not be so fearful of it. Your future is exceptionally bright. Right? It would not be, you guys are here today. You could be on the PS5, okay? You could be anywhere, I know. But you are here, and I wanna just give a personal shout out to Mo, to Chris, to the foundation, and all of the work that you all are doing, right? You could be anywhere. But this is what you're spending your time doing, and you're passionate about it, and you believe in it because you believe in giving back. And I pray that you all are blessed 100-fold for the work that you are doing that you don't have to do, right? But you want to do it to give back to this community. And this is just one of the many things. So I hope that you are following them on social media as well and keeping in contact with them. So the next event that they do, anything that they're doing you can be a part of, we hope that you would want to do that. And with that being said, Mo, do you want to close it out? Russell Simmons, God bless, good night.
So first of all, I just want to thank everybody for coming out, right? Like she just said, you could have been anywhere, but you decided to come here, and I appreciate that. And each and every time, I think these seats are going to fill up even more each and every time, right? Because It just takes that first step. Secondly, I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I didn't have to wait. I didn't have to, yeah. I asked each one of you, and the moment I asked, you guys said, hold up, got you, I'm gonna be there, right? And I appreciate that, because that meant so much to me, because I know how busy you all are. I know that you guys got a lot of things going on, and the fact that you guys decided to spend your Saturday, a few hours with us, and just to pour into us, that meant the world to me, and I appreciate you guys, all right? Secondly, before y'all leave, when you go out that door, it's food, it's water, like make sure y'all take something on the way home. Please take something, all right? Please take something, all right? Also, too, you got a couple minutes where if you guys wanted to come up, meet them and whatnot, and ask whatever you want to ask, if you guys got a few minutes, you guys can do that. Before we do that, though, can we get together real quick and take a group photo? I always like taking a group photo just to show like the power of our community coming together. Yeah.